Hello and welcome to 5 Ways to Make Your Data Recovery More Reliable. Today's webinar is sponsored by Veeam and produced by Actual Tech Media. My name is Scott Becker. I'm from Actual Tech Media and I'm excited to be your moderator for this special event. Now, before we get to today's great content, we do have a few housekeeping items that will help you get the most out of this session. First off, we want this to be an informative event for you. So we encourage any questions in the questions box in our webinar control panel. This will be a short and sweet event, but we won't have a dedicated Q&A period at the end. However, we will pass your questions along to the Veeam team so they can get back to you. So if there's anything you hear that you'd like clarification about or more details about, just enter your question into the console and someone from Veeam will get back to you. The Q&A panel is also the place to let us know about any technical issues you might be experiencing. A browser refresh will fix most audio, video, and slide advancement issues. But if that doesn't work, let us know in the Q&A and we will provide further technical assistance. Second, in the handout section of your webinar control panel, you'll find that we're offering several resources. Veeam has an internally produced piece of research on 10 best practices for VMware vSphere backups. And there's also a link for a free 30-day trial download of Veeam Backup and Replication version 11A. Other links include the Actual Tech Media Guerrilla Guide Book Club and the ATM Event Center, which has our calendar of upcoming events. So I encourage you to access those resources now and share them with your friends and your colleagues. Third, at the end of this webinar event, we will be awarding a $300 Amazon gift card to one lucky registrant. You must be in attendance during the live event to qualify for the prize. The official terms and conditions of today's prize drawing can be found in the handout section. Scroll to the bottom and you'll find the prize terms and conditions link there. And with that, let's get to today's great content. It's my pleasure to introduce you to our presenters today, Billy Cashwell, who is Senior Manager of Global Product Marketing at Veeam, and Kaylee Bovey, Senior Manager of Product Marketing at Veeam. So Billy, great to have you here. Take it away.
Thank you for joining us today. Today we would like to talk about 5 ways you can make your data recovery and recovery in general much more reliable. We know that we all scramble trying to make sure that our backups fit and our backups work, but really everything comes down to recovery, and we're excited to tell you more about that today. My name is Billy Cashwell. I'm a Senior Product Manager here at Veeam. And I'm joined by Kaylee Bovey, who's also a Senior Product Marketing Manager here at Veeam. And we're excited to take you down this journey. So Kaylee, as we go into the next slide, help us understand where does some of this come from? What are some of the proof points we're looking into?
Yeah, so let's just take a look at a little bit of data first to kind of ground us. So taking a look at the latest data protection trends report for 2022. This is a report Veeam sources every year from various organizations and does a lot of good background research on what's driving change in the market right now, right? So one of the main questions that's surveyed is this: what would drive you to evaluate another data protection solution or service? What's kind of your pain point, right? And we look at those top 2 pieces there, right, are what we're here to talk about today: improve RPO, RTO, SLAs, and improve reliability. And this is consistent over the years, right? I think if you look back at the 2020 and 2021 data protection report, those still hold true as the top 2 drivers for change when looking at your data protection solution. So we can all relate. We all know that this is something we want to optimize and improve when looking at our data protection solutions. So that's why we're here to talk about that today and talk about some best practices, tips and tricks, and things that you should look for in your solution. So next up, I believe, are just a few questions. So keep these as we kind of go through these best practices and we kind of talk about some Veeam capabilities and options that might be good to integrate into your solution. Keep these in the back of your mind. Typical best practice question. So how frequently should you be running your backups, right? And this should probably vary based on what applications are business critical versus what can kind of have less frequent backups, keeping that in mind as you're planning your strategy. 2, are you testing your backups and testing your recovery? This is a big one when it comes to reliability, right? Because this is what's going to give you your confidence. And then 3, which is kind of a new piece that we're kind of bringing into this story in more recent years, right? Backups are now in the attack vector of cyber threats, right? They're at risk for being infected by ransomware, and that greatly can impact your confidence in being able to recover from those backups if you're unsure if they've been affected in a ransomware attack or other cyber threats, right? So you don't want to restore from something that's been infected. So having the confidence that you have those backups protected through and through will help with reliability when the time comes to recover. So
I think that's really interesting, Kaylee. I've done backups. I've worked in this industry almost 3 decades. I hate to age myself and say that out loud, but those first 2 things were always something present, right? How often do we need to back it up? Are we testing these backups? And testing was a lot more arduous back in the day, if you will, right? But that third one is something that's really new, and it's really changed things because, at time of recovery, that's not the time you want to be messing around. And if you can't trust, what you're recovering, that puts a big challenge in place. So again, I like how you brought it back to reliability there, because those cyber threats are something that no matter what you did in the first one or the second one, they still pose a problem. So well said.
All right. So first stop on this kind of discussion, we want to start with monitoring, right? This is kind of your first pulse on your environment to give you any red flags if something is failing or there are signs of potential cyber threat infections or anything like that. So making sure you have your monitoring and analytics and reporting set up comprehensively for your environment is going to be a great first place to start. So all these things it leads to increased backup success, which again leads to reliable recovery, right? So having 24/7, 365 monitoring, making sure that those backups are completing without error is a good first stop. 2, having backup infrastructure monitoring for common issues that could affect backup success, and elaborating on that, also investing in solutions that can remediate those common issues for you automatically to keep things running smoothly. And then also analysis on usage trends to prevent future issues with storage. So storage capacity can obviously lead to errors if you're not monitoring that, understanding your utilization trends. So having good reporting and alerts and monitoring on that is critical too. All right, so testing, we kind of touched on this before. The best testing that you can do is the testing that you actually perform, making sure that you do it. We understand that it's costly, right? It takes time, it takes storage, but it's truly the thing that's going to give you confidence when the time comes for recovery, right? So things to consider when planning your recovery testing strategy and schedule. First, figuring out the schedule to meet the SLA requirements that you have, right? More, tighter SLA requirements are going to require a more frequent testing schedule, for example. Factoring in the time required by your solution to recover the data or workload, so understanding how much time it's going to take to run those tests. Like I said, the storage is a requirement, right? It's going to take storage to run your testing, and making sure that you have it automated is going to give you that confidence that you're repeating it, you've got it running at the appropriate frequency, and that will reduce human error too. So factoring all that into your testing schedule and ensuring that you've got that set up from the beginning is going to be critical for reliability.
Yeah, I think that last one's really important. In the past, it was just about everything was manual, but there are so many different ways to automate things now. When you consider all of the APIs that many companies and many applications are are making available for you out there to build your own type of scripts or type of automation with it, whether that's using Puppet, Chef, something in VMware. It's really interesting how you can really improve how strong your testing is and how reliable your recovery is just with that automation. So I think that's one of the more nuances, Kaylee, that we're seeing these days.
Absolutely. Okay, and then another best practice. This is pretty familiar for everyone, I'm sure. The 3-2-1 rule, having 3 different copies of data on 2 different media types, one of those being offsite. Veeam, highlighted on the right, takes this a little bit further. We suggest a 3-2-1-1-0 rule. So adding in one of which is offline, air-gapped, or immutable, so that those can't be tampered with, and in addition, no errors after automated backup testing and recoverability verification. So adding in that immutability, adding in that testing factor to ensure that you have the right reliability when you get to recovery. And we're gonna cover we're gonna dive a little bit deeper into immutability and into testing here in a little bit too, to kind of give you some more details on that.
So thank you, Kaylee. Let's talk about how you can actually achieve these things with Veeam. So we wanted things to be short and sweet for you guys. Many of you already know how to make recovery reliable just by things you're already doing. But we wanted to tell you about how Veeam actually helps to usher these things in. And it doesn't require you to do a lot of extra heavy lifting in order to do that. Most of, having that reliability, if you think about Veeam's mantra and some of the things we say, we are simple, we are flexible, always reliable, and powerful. And that reliability we take very, very seriously. And I think you're going to be very interested and maybe even surprised to see how many different ways that Veeam goes that extra mile to ensure that you can recover, because again, recovery is paramount to everything. And that's why you're doing these backups. So let's dive in just a little bit. So we promised you 5 things. Kaylee and I could not just pick 5 individual items. We said, you know what, it's really 5 categories. And there's a handful of things that we can provide to you as a customer, service provider, or partner to be able to take advantage of, again, to end up with that reliable recovery. That's the desired outcome we're after. So our first stop is monitoring and analytics. So some of the things that we offer here at Veeam are monitoring and analytics that are very, very specific to your backups, but also provide monitoring for things like your virtual infrastructure. And these monitoring and analytics really help you to increase the reliability by going back to some of the things Kaylee alluded to earlier, but consider proactive alerting. You want to know when potential issues are coming up, and you want to be able to take care of those before they become threats or true problems for your organization. You've got one shot to get that backup done at night, and if you miss it during that window, you probably can't do it until the next window opens. So anything in there that can help you detect early and do prevention is going to take you a long way. I'm going to skip over reporting and go right to intelligent diagnostics and remediation actions for just a moment. We talked about the ability to alert and proactively see those potential issues and take care of them before they become threats. Well, not only are we doing that, but Veeam is also providing intelligent diagnostics that makes suggestions on how to fix these things. So we make you aware of it, and then we suggest how to fix it. And in many cases, because of the common call generators that we see coming in technical support, we build that back into the product, and that is the remediation actions. So anytime we see one of these common issues, more likely than not, we can remediate, take care of that, and keep going so that you get that backup complete, so the backup is done right. Therefore, the recovery is reliable. And then just to make sure, what gets measured gets done, a wise man once said to me. And what that means is you need to report on this. You need to be able to have some deep reporting to truly enhance your decision making, specific to both your backup jobs, your backup infrastructure, and even your virtual infrastructure. What's going on? Did I protect everything? Am I ready for recovery?
And Billy, just to add on to that, there's also the element of monitoring if your backups are in compliance too. if you want to touch on that, and feel free to elaborate. That's a good piece of our reporting structure.
Yeah, absolutely. Compliance and ransomware and malicious activity, right, Kaylee? I think those are good call outs. So in order to be compliant, more often than not, you're asked, what did the backups do? Are we able to meet our compliance goals? Can we meet our service level agreements and our objectives? And then quite frankly, if something's messing around with the data, messing with the backup data, if things are changing, am I going to be made aware of that? And this is beyond trying to capture something at the antivirus level, right? This is just heuristics that say things are acting a little weird. You should go take a look at it. So thank you, Kaylee. It's a lot deeper than just the basic backup jobs for sure. And Veeam's here to help provide that. So now let's take a look at immutability. So one of the things Kaylee talked about during the 32110 chart when we were talking about that extra 1 and 0 in the end. And this goes back to what we were talking about with the immutability and how cyber threats are now cyber threats are now including backups inside of their attack vectors. So it's not just your primary data, but the data that you've protected, that data you rely on to come back if everything goes to bust, right? That data is now being targeted. So there's ways to keep that data from being altered, changed, anything in any way, and the main one is through immutability. First and foremost, Veeam offers a hardened repository that runs on Linux, which allows you to, by default, as soon as you write a backup, you're writing it in an immutable state, which means it cannot be changed again for the duration of the time that was set, even by the administrator. Therefore, when that backup comes time to be restored, you can absolutely rely on it 1000%. In the cloud, if you're sending backups up to the cloud for long-term storage, archival, or just because you're moving to the cloud at an accelerated rate, we take advantage of things in S3. I say on cloud, it could be on premises as well with your object lock. So we're taking advantage of S3 object lock to say anything we write up there, we can lock it down, we can make it immutable. Again, not just for the duration of when you need to recover it, but for the full duration of its life cycle. And that may be years based on what regulatory compliance you were bound to. And then finally, what we've been talking about in this whole slide is achieving that 32110, Veeam being able to automatically copy things over to cloud storage or object storage as soon as the backup's complete, to really reduce that delta in between what's on your primary and what's on your backups. Finally, keeping things clean, just to kind of round out the first three, and keeping things clean means keeping those cyber threats out. So not only are we making backups immutable to keep them safe for the duration, but we're making sure that when we write data to your storage, that we're checking it with whatever antivirus you choose to use. We're integrated with many trusted antivirus and malware solutions to ensure that when you're backing up the data, as we're writing it, it is clean and it can be relied on. In the event you had older backups, or maybe you were not using automatic scans in the past, we can even help to prevent reinfection by saying that anytime data is coming back in, we have something called Secure Restore that will go through and scan that data again to make sure it's clean before it's put back. And this is something really important because maybe even before backups were in that attack vector for cyber threats, you could have had threats that were just lying there latent in some of your in your file system. These things could be written out, they go stay for a while, you bring it back in on recovery, you're reinfected all over again. So Veeam is here to make sure things are clean going out and coming back in. Number 4, Kaylee mentioned this one, recovery testing and verification. What gets measured gets done. So we have a few different things here, including Veeam Backup, built-in automation that you can take advantage of, and taking advantage of the instant recovery technology that Veeam pioneered many years ago to provide you with an isolated testing process that's really fast and easy to do. So one is to go through these things individually. Sure Backup, again, at the end of every backup, much like we're doing with the antivirus, but this one's taking it to the next level to say, I will take this backup, I will stand it up in a virtual sandbox and ensure that it will power back on, the data can come back fine, everything's going to be good. We have built-in automation that can help you increase the testing on a regular basis. So not only can you take advantage of Sure Backup on Demand, you can schedule that out to ensure that that testing is happening. Kaylee we kind of think it's tongue in cheek to make the joke, but it's unfortunately true. The best testing is testing that actually happens. And we know it's not easy. We know it's arduous, and we know it's not cheap to do testing. And that's where we land on this last one. Instead of having to have that full environment always at a moment's notice where you're going to recover to, you can at least take those individual backups of systems, applications, or whatever workloads you protect and stand them up instantly in Veeam's virtual sandbox. So you can apply patch testing against it. You can just make sure everything's working. Any new code you're developing, you can test against it. All in a place that's fenced off from the production network that you can work in and shut it all down and clean it up when you're done. And finally, number 5, flexibility. When we talk about the reliability of recovery, it's not all about making sure it's tested and making sure the recovery is clean. A reliable recovery is one you can pull off inside of your objective, whether that's going back to a certain point of time for your recovery point objective, or whether that's just getting it done in seconds versus hours for your recovery time objective. And the good news is Veeam really owns the market when it comes to this, because these are things that we patented, these are the things that we innovated, and we continue to iterate on, release after release, to make sure that you have the best and most flexible recovery that's always reliable, available to you at any time. First and foremost, the underpinning to a lot of things that we do here is our instant recovery technology. We started this back, I'd say back in the early 2000s with instant VM recovery, where you can instantly recover an entire VM. We then started taking that, again, our mantra being innovate and then iterate. We started stretching that out to more things, and we continue to do this with each new release from Veeam. One of those being instant recovery for databases. And the interesting thing here is if you read that description, the first 2 words are the most important. Any size SQL Oracle database instantly back into production. And, I like to say, why wait can it be when it can be instant? And that's a real thing. Recovery more often than not takes as long as the backup, if not longer sometimes than the backup took. So having the ability to instantly put it back is really a game changer. Same thing for network attached storage, being able to instantly publish a share of any size directly from backup. And we say directly from backup, all of these things are coming direct from your backup. We're not having to use any type of staging storage or anything like that. And then we talked about hitting those recovery point objectives, even down measured in less than 10 seconds or less than 5 seconds. Veeam can provide that solution through continuous data protection, which really allows you that reliable recovery because you can hit those ultra low RPOs that you need to hit for your mission critical tier 1 workloads. And then finally, ultimate in flexibility. Everyone here has virtualization of some flavor, and now you can recover any Veeam backup instantly to virtual, whether that's vSphere, Hyper-V, or Nutanix AHV. You can instantly recover again any of your backups to one of these virtualized platforms. And it's really nice because, again, that flexibility, it means you don't have to build the server yet. You don't have to wait for hardware to come in. You don't have to go back to a pre-built image. You've already got that, and you can instantly bring it back. So as we come to the close of our nice, short, and sweet webcast today, just here to remind you of all the new things and additional things that we can do to provide more reliability here at Veeam. We want you to have the opportunity to learn more. So this QR code on the screen is completely functional. I'll give you just a moment to take your phone out or take a screenshot of it. From this, you can download a free trial that is completely free for 30 days of Veeam backup and replication. You can keep up with our latest news on social media. You can look at some of our new web assets that we've got out there. And I think one of the best things and one of the most exciting things that drew me to Veeam a few years ago was the fact of the community. Veeam community is almost fanatical, but in a good way. The Veeam community is really there to help peers share information, they share tips, they share tricks, they come in to help each other out. It's a very strong community, And one of my favorite things I think that I heard in there more than anything was the phrase, "It just works." That's something that comes from the community, and it's because of that strong resource that we can say that and make that claim. And thank you again for spending the time with us today.
Well, thanks to Billy and Kaylee for putting together a really informative presentation. We really appreciate your time today. And let me just remind everyone before we wrap up about those handout links, especially for the white paper and for the free trial. And before we do close today, we have one more piece of business. It's the $300 Amazon gift card prize drawing. And the winner of the $300 Amazon gift card is Ben Schomer from Virginia. Congratulations, Ben. We'll be in touch to get you your card. And with that, on behalf of the Actual Tech Media team, I want to thank Veeam for making this event possible. And thanks, as always, to all of you for attending. That concludes today's event. We'll see you next time.